reconstructive DIY plastic ability to recreate something with this kind of thing. How does this gray go to fluorescent orange? How does duct tape become something that's materiality, become used from everything to what it was eventually intended to be used for, to something else? Who knows where this is? I guess. Any guesses? Mountains, right? Someone
Northern
spent time in Italy.
Northern Italy.
Oh, there you go. Carrara, Pietrasanta. I'm trained as a marble carver. Far from duct tape. Okay? So 6 years I was an apprentice stone carver from the time I was 19 to 25. So I used to be infatuated with this kind of idea. Pouring something from the earth, made over thousands of years, transformed into something religious, not religious. What does it mean? What does materiality mean? What does it mean when you let a block of marble that's quarried from the mountain create its own path down the hill to then become something else? Now they blast marble out of the ground. What does this have to do with duct tape? Not much. But it has to do with tangibility, materiality. What is material? What is this kind of manufactured material, mass-produced on a global scale? So it goes into Jan's talk about what is industrialization, materiality, global consumerism, marketing. What is this world that we live in? Those are my hands. I used to wrap my hands in duct tape. My father's from Sicily. I grew up in Baltimore. I used to call my father and say, Babbo, 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 dimmi questo nastro americano. Send me the American tape. Send me the American tape. And he's like, why? But then he knows me really well, and he's like, oh, I'll just send him duct tape. So he just sent me rolls and rolls of tape. I used to wrap my hands to remind myself not to use my wrist when I carve. You use your shoulder when you hammer and chisel. And so a common problem with young stone carvers is they want to hammer as hard as they can with this super heavy mallet. And within a week, they can't hammer for a month because they've destroyed their wrists. So you have to remind yourself not to carve or hammer like a carpenter in America. You have to just keep your wrists rigid and use your shoulder. So the only way I could remind myself to do that was to wrap my hands in tape every day. This tape would resist the marble dust and stay on my hands all day long. At the end of the day, I'd cut off these makeshift gloves, and they became these little sculptures on my mantle, where I lived at the studio. Every 3 months, you were given a month off from carving to recuperate. So you made breakfast, you made lunch, you made dinner for all the other apprentices and the carvers. And but as a 19-year-old kid, all you want to do is make. You just want to keep making. So I'd go into the studio, start hammering. My master carver would say, Fiori, Fiori, out, 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 get out, get out. So I'd go into my little bedroom at the studio, and I'd see all these rolls of tape. And I wanted to start making things with tape, so I started trying to recreate kind of the Gates of Paradise, bronze doors of the baptistry in Florence, because I loved how our new society of diesel-powered vehicles was creating all this soot that was encaking itself on these classical carvings. And I loved how the marble dust and oil from the pneumatic tools would cake itself on this duct tape material, and I loved how it related to that kind of world. So what does it have to do with ammunition boxes? This is the true invention of duct tape. Duct tape was originally army green, that color, used by the military, or asked by the military to the 3M company in Minnesota, can you come up with a material in 1939 to prevent condensation for all these ammunition boxes going over to World War II. What was happening is the boxes would go up to altitude on C-130 planes. These metal boxes would get frozen, and on landing, all that frozen ice would thaw and flood these ammunition boxes, preventing the ammunition from working. 3M came up with duct tape. It wasn't called duct tape then, it was just called army tape, green army tape. And it was a solution to a problem, a DIY solution to a problem. They wrapped every box with this tape. The soldiers started reusing that tape when they unwrapped the ammunition boxes to fix their shoes, to fix their uniforms, to fix all their equipment. It started as a form and function kind of material of reuse and kind of adaptive technology. With the advent of HVAC systems in the early 1950s, going into the 60s, 3M said we can solve this problem as well. There's condensation inside these pipes. How are we going to prevent water from spraying over everyone's house? So what they did is change the color when all these HVAC technicians started using the material, and changed it to the color we know now, and also gave it its name that we know of now as duct tape. So it's been used for many things. Some good, not so bad. You know, some that we see all the time. It's become a craftsman tool. It's become a DIY tool to solve a problem, but not really solve a problem. You know, it's some kind of, even been used on the moon. So you know the stories of NASA using this material. Also has a contemporary art context. This is Maurizio Catalan duct taping his dealer to the wall. For me, it's about using the material to create things, talking about problems in society. So these are a series of fish that are dying out in the Rio Grande River, or one particularly, the silvery minnow fish. It's a canary in the coal mine. When that fish starts dying, everything starts dying in the community, in the kind of ecosystem. So this is based on overpollution and radioactivity in the Rio Grande River from the Los Alamos testing grounds. I love the taxility of this material, that I can transform it into something else. This goes back to the history of a C-130 plane, largest payload still being used today, but how a military plane that used to drop bombs can be retrofitted to now fight forest fires, and what that means when a vehicle becomes transformed into something else. I'll go kind of quickly. I also do things like this that talk about horse racing industry and problems with that. What happens when a horse starts watching a horse race on TV and the one in the background's really pissed because he can only hear the TV? And it's like talking about issues that come up in society that are humorous, but also talk about problems that aren't readily repaired with just a little bit of tape. I also created these kind of sculptures based on ingenuity. These are enlargements of the first handgun bullets that were matched to a handgun in 1917 to prove a ballistics test to convict someone of a crime. So it's these kind of things I like to create. I also have roots of being in Italy, being in Florence, being in Pietrasanta, going back and forth for 6 years, where the studio would exist. I like this idea of carving subtractively, looking at a block. So what's far from marble and duct tape? Well, styrofoam and duct tape is really far. So I got this big block of styrofoam, and we'll carve it into the right hand of Michelangelo's David, because to me, it's like the David's hand has this rock that then is thrown and then kills this beast and then becomes the symbol of a city. And what does that mean when somebody who really throws a rock becomes a symbol of your city? It's not such a good icon of your city. It's kind of more of a Western kind of cowboy aesthetic. Oh, he's the hero. He's just killed someone. Let's worship this person. So it's, for me, it's this kind of idea that I create some pieces and create performances with as well. So this is kind of performance-based, dragging a woman out to sea and bringing her back, and what happens when those kind of things happen. It's talking about romanticism and tragic opera kind of existence. How does this enter the classroom? I create buildings that are no longer in existence out of this material. I create situations which I wish existed that don't exist. You know, this is above Los Angeles. While the city's on fire, everyone's entertained. It also gets back into the relation of how duct tape moves into its colors of tape. The Hollywood industry has prescribed to the duct tape companies, we need a color for every actor, every lighting technician, every gaffer, where everyone's supposed to stand. And this created a craft industry and also created all the colors that we know of now. Because when you go onto a movie set, you'll see all the different colors to relate to where people are supposed to stand. So when they go to have coffee, they can come back and stand where they're supposed to stand. And it's also created a huge craft industry. For me, I like doing a lot of things. This is the Tail of Pup hot dog stand that doesn't exist anymore. Such a beautiful building. And I did 3,000 drawings of this restaurant before it was destroyed. And then I ground up those drawings, and they're inside that hot dog. That's made out of duct tape. So it's like, what does that mean? This is all tape, so there's no paint or anything. You go and visit the Taj Mahal, and the Taj Mahal foundation is crumbling, so I like to create buildings out of this material that is a temporary stop fix. Like, you can fix it for just so long until you have to come up with real solutions. Much like when I used to wrap my tennis shoes when they got a hole with duct tape, and then it got another hole, and you wrap it with more tape, and then you start blaming the tape instead of the hole. And that's how we look at things in the West. Like when you fill a pothole, you fill it, and you fill it, and you fill it, and you say, what's wrong with the person who's filling this pothole versus what caused the problem? So a lot of my work deals with that kind of thing. What does this do with a company? Well, the founder of this SureTech company, duct tape company, saw my work in New York and said, you want to do some product marketing for us? I said, no way. And I said, but can you help my classes with material? Can you help my classes and provide them for us to have a forum to do what we want to do? And he said, sure, we'll give you whatever you want. And so it's where connection to industry and mass marketing and mass production can enter into academia kind of things, where we can create sculptures that relate to a bigger audience that is not art specific or art educated. An audience that is global, worldwide, who knows this material and can engage in ideas based on form, function, and materiality. So to do things like this, or like this, is the HVAC system constructed out of duct tape, so reversing the process. This is Viewmaster, constructed out of duct tape, about a disappearance of how imagery is changing rapidly in our society. This is in relation to the Love sculpture, so it's based on Robert, Indiana kind of thing. And this, the most recent thing I did is, what if Chewbacca was the mother of all creation? I'll end it there because I know we're rushing for time. And thank you all.
Thank you.